Before I begin, I need to explain the Hebrew months. They still have 12 months in a year. They just have different names. For example, Tishri is their 7th month, which corresponds to September in the Gregorian calendar. This is interesting because a septagon or a heptagon has 7 sides. So the 7th month in the Hebrew calendar corresponds with September, and the 8th month with October. And again, an octagon has 8 sides, so October being the 8th month makes sense. And a nonagon for the 9th month of November, and a decagon for the 10th month of December. So to help make the story easy to follow, I will substitute the Hebrew months with their corresponding Gregorian month. So instead of saying Nisan, I'll say March. And for Tishri, I'll say September, and so on. Secondly, my calculations are based on 30 days per month. In the Bible, a year is 360 days, which is 12 months of 30 days each. So a month is 30 days, and this is standard practice. All right, so here's the story. I'll pick it up at the part where Moses and the Israelites leave Egypt on the day of the Passover, which is the 14th day of March. So after traveling for almost 7 weeks, they arrive at Mount Sinai and they set up camp there. On the 3rd day of camp, which is also 50 days after the Passover, God comes down to the mountaintop with fire, billows of smoke, a loud trumpet blast, and the ground shaking. God then speaks out the 10 commandments to Moses and the Israelites, and all the people hear his voice. After 7 days go by, God calls Moses to come up the mountain, where he is to stay 40 days and 40 nights. During that time, God writes his commandments, his law, on 2 stone tablets, using his finger to write. At the end of the 40 days and 40 nights, he gives the 2 tablets to Moses. Meanwhile, back in the camp, the people have become fidgety, anxious, maybe even panicky. Where is this Moses fellow, they ask. He's late. I'm getting a bad feeling about this. Something's happened to him and it ain't good. So they demand that Aaron, a high priest and Moses' brother, build them an idol so they can worship. So they gather all the gold jewelry they can muster, and Aaron melts it down in a fire, and using a tool, builds a statue of a golden calf, places it on an altar, and pretty soon the people are worshiping this statue, prostituting themselves on this altar, and full-on practicing idolatry and sin. God then says to Moses, "Get back to the camp, the kids are out of control." So Moses heads down the mountain, bringing the 2 stone tablets with him. As he's nearing the camp, he hears the singing, and then he sees what's going on, and his anger burns. He becomes so angry that he holds up the tablets where everyone can see, and he throws them to the bottom of the mountain where they break into pieces. He then throws the golden calf into the fire where it is consumed, and he grounds the gold into powder, sprinkles the powder into the water, and has all the Israelites drink it. He then says, "All you men who are on my side, take a sword, go through the camp, and slay those people who are out of control." So these men go from one end of the camp to the other, and about 3,000 people were killed on that day. The next day, Moses goes back up the mountain to plead forgiveness for his people. As a result, God relents from destroying all of them, but he sends a plague, and so there will be more deaths because of the golden calf. Moses stays on the mountain another 40 days and 40 nights. At the end of that period, God tells Moses to go back down, grab 2 stone tablets to replace the ones he broke, and come back up in the morning. So Moses does that, and the next day, Moses goes back up the mountain. He stays another 40 days and 40 nights, during which God rewrites his commandments and laws into the stone tablets. At the end of the 40 days and 40 nights, Moses comes down from the mountain, bringing with him the 2nd set of stone tablets, and his face was radiant with God's glory. Now, according to my calculations, the second coming of Moses down off the mountain with the 2 stone tablets happened on, wait for it, September 11th. Yes, you heard right, 9/11. That is unbelievable. So this is a 9/11 prophecy. Now you can verify my calculations yourself. Here are the verses containing the number of days for each part of the story. If you can add or use a calculator, you should be able to verify all this. But this result is not my invention. The Jewish people believe the 40th day was the 10th day of the 7th month. They call this day Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement. Some Jews believe this is the most holiest day of the year. So this supports my calculations. Day 40 was September 10th, but Moses also spent 40 nights, which means he spent the 40th night on the mountain. Then he comes down the morning of September 11th. This is still consistent with Yom Kippur being held on the 10th day of the 7th month because that's based on Moses staying 40 days. One last thing. The first 10 days of September, or the 7th month for the Jews, is not a celebration. It's about repentance and ensuring your name is written into the book of life. Once the 10 days are up, which is after Yom Kippur, your fate is said to be sealed. Then after the Day of Atonement comes judgment, which fits with the symbolism of 9/11 being the climax of the master plan and a key part of the second coming. This means the second coming is not a flash in the pan event, but rather a process. And 9/11 is a sign that the process of the second coming is underway. So now let's talk about some of the other 9/11 prophecies in the story.